Good afternoon. This is Chris Fowler. I am an insurance adjuster, second generation insurance adjuster, and I've been doing this for 33 years. Love the insurance business. When I was trying to get my friends involved in the business to go with me so that we could form a team, then I would tell them all the exotic places we were traveling to and things like that. So they all got excited about the travel, the money, seeing the catastrophes and whatnot, and then also the challenge of the insurance policies. And so, today I'm just kind of curious to ask you guys, what was the number one thing when you came to someone? How did you get started? David, let's start with you. What got you started in the business?
Okay. First of all, I'm David James. I'm the property claims training manager here at CNC. Been here since February of this year. Prior to that, I got started in the business in 2011. Hurricane Irene, I believe it was, went to the East Coast. I was in the banking financial industry during that time, and
somebody said, "Come and make a lot of money," right?
Yeah.
There's a storm coming. Come make a lot of money, because that's kind of the call that I got.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd been through, I think I'd gone through the fourth or the fifth merger at that time with banks, and I was kind of over all of it. So knew several people that worked at an IA firm. I reached out to them and said, "Hey, are y'all hiring? I'm looking to do something different." And, of course, they said, "We're always looking." So,
but what drew you to it?
Helping people.
Going
back to listening to stories. I mean, here on the Gulf Coast, we have, hurricanes is nothing foreign to us here. So talking to friends, and like I said, I've got a network of friends that do that, that's been in the business for a while, and listening to what they do for the folks, and being able to relate to them and really help them put their lives back together, plus, make good money at it. So that's what drew my interest and got in it in 2011.
Well, my name's Todd Eisenberg.
Sorry.
No problem. My name's Todd Eisenberg. I'm the flood training manager here at CNC, and I started in the insurance business while I was an active duty Marine, and I started from personal tragedy. So I was on deployment in Fort Polk, Louisiana, and my wife called me and said, "Hey, our house is burning down. Can you come home?" And I says, "Well, I've got 300 Marines in the air. I'll be there when I get there."
Wow.
And so I had to make sure they were all safe, because I was the operations chief at that time. And then I drove home that night, and my house was destroyed.
Wow.
Well, I got through all that. I tore my house down, just did everything with all my family, but I met the insurance adjuster, and he came out, and the first thing he did was he blamed my son. And he said, "I can see where he started the fire right here." And I says, "Well, I've got the fire marshal report saying, no, you're wrong. This." Well, he continued to do that through a week's worth of investigation. And to make a long story short, there was some confrontation between us. The police were called. And I just told myself that I want to change that whole attitude.
Good for
I want
you.
to change it. So that's what got me into the business. And
Really?
When Hurricane Katrina hit, I signed up with another IA firm and went to work right then. And I've been in it ever since.
So you just wanted to change the business.
I wanted
And
to
you
change
wanted to
the
help
business.
Right.
And I kind of wanted to travel, and I heard you can make a lot of money and get rich quick scheme and all of that. So,
Right.
Initially when we did start, I was using Polaroid cameras and handwritten estimates and things like that, and we would be given a price list. So what would an adjuster today, what do you need to get started? So I do meet people from time to time, and they ask me, what do I need to do? I just tell them to call Human Resources. But what else is there? What do you do? David, let's ask you.
there's so many tools out there to get started. You mean as far as, you know, it depends on if you're looking from the field or from the desk, what aspect of the career or what stage are you at? To get started in the industry, you know, you just got to have the willingness to learn, and that's really with any career. But be open-minded.
Okay.
Customer service is just as that mindset is just as big as the knowledge of construction itself. But
Okay.
you know, that's
So let's say I see a hurricane coming in, and I start to hear this buzz, and I start to see people get excited. How should I get prepared as far as, you know, how do I know, am I going to be working wind claims? If you don't know anything about the business, Todd,
I can answer that
Answer that.
because, I mean, it was really quite interesting with Hurricane Katrina because I started out just like that.
Mhm.
I knew what I wanted to do as an
Mhm.
active Marine. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, I said, okay, well, I want to do this. Well, I was still an active duty Marine. So I went to, well, I filled out an application. That was the very first thing I had to do. I went to a company, filled out the application. They said, okay, well, Hurricane Katrina hit. Here, now you got to go to training. So I went to training, and then they dumped me on the front door of someone's house. I didn't have any experience. I didn't know anything. And I even asked the policyholder at that time. I said, hey, sir, I heard you got damage. Can you show me what it is? So I kind of made it happen. And then from then on, this is the biggest thing I think that's out there. From then on, I knew what I wanted to do because I was helping that individual, and I knew what I had to learn. So I practiced, I learned, I studied, I did everything I possibly could. You know, like David said, there's a lot of tools out there. I had them all. I had construction for dummies, even though I knew how to build homes and stuff. I had construction for dummies, something like that, to help me with that. Understanding everything. I did everything I could to learn what my job was. So I showed up at the next house, I knew what to do.
so you have to know about construction? Is that something that would be kind of required to be an adjuster?
Yeah, I think so. Whether you're dealing with property or even with flood. I mean, there are two different aspects. It depends which one you want to go to. But yeah, there's a set of tools you need for property adjusting, and there's a set of tools you need for flood adjusting.
What about auto adjusting?
Yeah, that's another tool. Completely. You need to know about cars. You need to
definitely
know
need to
something
know how
about
how it's
cars.
built.
Okay, so
Sure.
I'm working at a tire store, and I am serving. I'm not, but this is a situation. I met a gentleman, and he wanted to get into the business.
Right.
He had just gotten out of the service, and I thanked him for his service because I appreciate the military so much, so very much. And I mentioned my company to him and sent him to our website, and we talked a little bit. And he was asking me these questions like, what do I need? So I told him a computer, a camera, money. You need to have some money in order to get started. You need to have a backup plan because when you leave, okay, so a hurricane is coming in and your name wasn't even on the list, right, Todd? Your
Right.
name wasn't on the list. You just got on the list. How long did that even take? I mean, did you have to be licensed to do this? Did they just say, hey, come to work, you're going to make a lot of money, and that's it?
Well, at that time, back in 2005, there wasn't a license required for the state of Alabama, but now there is. So you've got to get that license. But it was just, again, filling out an application, being approved by the company to come work, and going through their training. And we have the same thing here at CNC. You know, you have to go through the application process. You have to go through the HR, and you have to go through the training.
What about that license? Is it hard to get? What do you think, David?
Let me go back to kind of just give you how I got into it and what I did from the when I first
Okay.
started. Like I said, I didn't have much construction experience.
Okay.
You know, I played sports pretty much my entire
They
life.
say anybody can do it.
and you can. Graduated from college and went into the finance business, and then called up my buddy and asked if they were hiring. They said yes, so I just dove right in, really, and took a leap of faith and go in. And I'll never forget when you go in, and it was during the hurricane. They had, you know, there's thousands and thousands of policyholders out there that are filing claims for damages. So you sit down And I sat down and I had 72 or 75 claims assigned to me already. When I sat down. And
it's going through your mind.
it's like,
Crazy.
You've never done this. You have left your home,
I was looking
right?
around the corner. I was like, am I really supposed to be doing this? What am I supposed to be doing? You know? And turn on the computer and
You knew how to turn on a computer, so
Yeah.
that's a
and talk to people. You know,
talking to
you know,
people. Yeah, definitely.
know how to talk to people, and the customer service piece
Absolutely.
of it.
100% of
That
it.
goes with. I mean, that's every day that we you think about what you do every day. You know, you're going to order food, and you know you have to learn. You have not to learn, but you need to know how to talk to people and treat people.
Right.
And
Yep.
my biggest thing is teaching folks is always try to get them to understand is put yourself in the customer's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want to know?
Mm-hmm.
What are going to be your questions? What would be your questions? And kind of start from there and lead into, you know, as far as how the claim experience goes. Every claim is going to be different. Every claim is not going to fit into the one mold. You can get a description of the claim and the damages, and you think, oh, well, this is like the last one that I just worked and helped this customer. No, it's not going to be. Some of it may be, but there's going to be different variables in there. So I was fortunate enough to just lean on others around me and ask questions that I didn't know. And with technology today, Google can teach you anything. I shouldn't say teach you anything, but you can Google anything and learn from it. And what you don't know, you got to have that initiative and that drive to want to learn.
Yeah.
To where don't be dependent on everybody.
Yep.
To do your job for you. Get started, and then show that initiative and come back and say, you know, what about this? I looked this up, or I've read this, or I learned this, I did this, and I can't get this. I can't get this piece of it. What is that? Instead of just saying, hey, can you help me? Can you call this person and help me work this claim?
Right.
I don't know what to do. Compared to, I know what to do. I've got to this point, but this is what I think I may need. Is that right or wrong, or what do you think?
But what was that experience like initially getting thrown into it? Todd, you were just you put yourself into the situation. You got your first claim. You said they dumped you out. Is
Yeah.
that what you said?
Yeah.
They dumped you out.
They did. They just said,
And then you were asking the policyholder, what do I do?
yeah, literally.
At least you were honest.
Yeah. I mean, I had 60 claims down in Hurricane Katrina.
How did you organize this? How did you call these people? How many claims did you have?
I had 60 claims in Hurricane Katrina.
So how did you
I
get
didn't
those
know.
claims? Did somebody hand them to you in an envelope and say, here, and then tell you, here, go call these people? Did they tell you you need to write an estimate? You're going to have to take pictures? How did this go down?
Yeah, basically, we all went to a big gym, and they kind of put this computer
gym.
this computer program up there and said, this is a computer program you're going to use.
What was that?
That was MSB at that time.
Which is an estimating program.
Yeah, estimating program, which
So
is
you
no
got
longer.
you got to automatically get into estimating online. You
Oh,
never
yeah.
got a chance to, or did you handwrite?
Well, I learned how to handwrite real quick because I didn't understand the program.
Yeah.
Because they didn't teach us the program. I had to learn the program on my own. And just like David said, I was Googling it. I was doing everything I could to figure out how
The
to
tools we have
put
now.
a room. I mean, yeah, the tools are incredible now that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I would do everything on paper. I would do everything on paper. I would write all my notes. I would write the whole entire estimate on the piece of paper, just like they did in the old days, because that's what I had.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend that did it old days, and in the olden days, and he said, just write it all down. Don't miss anything. Just write everything you see down, and they'll figure it out at the end, what you can pay for. So that's what I did. I went into a house.
Were you worried in the process?
I was terrified. I didn't know how to do this stuff. I didn't even know how to talk to the policyholder. I'm
So
just
how did
me.
you get over that? How do you overcome something like that?
Because it's just something that I'm not natural at, or my ability is. It was just me. I knew what I had to do. I knew what my job was. So I had to just be, I don't know if this is the correct word to use, forthcoming. I just had to.
Forthcoming.
I had to figure it out. I had to do it right then and just learn from my mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I got better. You get better. And you always get better because you're going to improve from one claim to the next claim, or next policyholder to the next policyholder.
Well, what kind of tools did you take with you the first time?
Nothing.
So you just had,
I didn't even know I needed a tape
you
measure.
had a piece of paper with a phone number and you didn't have a tape measure.
No one told me I needed a tape
Wow,
measure.
it's a lot different today now, isn't it? We've
Yeah.
got a lot of good training that can help these.
No one told me. No one told me I needed a camera. No one told me anything.
And you've been doing this now for how many years?
Since 2004.
And been very successful.
Yep.
And David, what about you?
You know, I've been doing it since 2011, and again, it's just going back to it. Really, a lot of folks get into this business when there's a huge event.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
If you 9 times or 8 times out
Do
of 10,
they stay?
You've got to figure that out if it's right for you at first. If this is what you want to do,
How do you know?
It's going to click real quick if you have a passion for it or not. Because I'm not going to say quotes and different things. I like quotes, but it really is. If you enjoy what you do, then really the time passes to where you're not watching the clock to see if it's ready. It's time to go get off work or whatever. If
Right.
you enjoy doing that, so
Right.
to me, that's when you know it's for you or not.
Right.
When you enjoy doing that and not dreading to go to work. Going back to it, it's just investing in yourself. Writing
Yep.
down, taking notes. I took notes of whenever I was sitting there or wherever I was. If I didn't know something, I was afraid to, at first, to let somebody or to feel like somebody knew that I didn't know. I didn't admit that.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to figure it out on my own after the fact. But then you ask questions and you learn from that. Just like I think you had mentioned it, you or Todd had mentioned it earlier about the licensing. State of Alabama required a test whenever I got into it, so took the test and passed it.
How was that test?
Was it
it
hard?
was. I've heard it's really difficult.
I don't know.
Truthfully.
No, if you pay attention and you look at the material, and you take the time to learn it.
Well, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I know property, and I know property. That's all that I knew when I got started when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that test, they killed me. The tests are difficult. I know that we have a lot of good training to help the adjusters. There's some courses that we provide here. Todd, you help them. Both of you guys help them a bunch. But I know that there's inland marine, there's liability, there's personal auto policies, there's all kinds of stuff that we don't even really deal with. We deal with property and automobiles.
Yeah.
So, but not to interrupt you, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're
but
good. I was going to actually elaborate on that a little bit as far as getting the license. As we were working claims, or as I worked the claims, from an adjuster standpoint, the more licenses you have, the more deployable
Definitely.
you are,
Yeah.
and the more people
Yeah.
you can help.
Why is that, though?
Well, not every state requires a license.
But many states
but
do.
A lot of them do.
And that's why you're more deployable, because if there's a claim in Florida and you don't have a license in Florida, then
you're not going to get to work.
you can't get
You can't.
okay.
You can't help that policyholder, and you're not going to have that work. What I did is I learned from others. Is I tried to add or get a license, if not every week, every other week, as I got paid. I tried to make it a point to try to obtain a license.
So you knew
just
you were going to do this.
Yeah, just because I knew I had the passion. I love helping people and being able to relate to them and just try to put them back to where they were. I don't. The destruction of it. I've knock on wood. I haven't had to go through that, but I've seen many folks go through it, and it's just a great feeling helping people and seeing them get back to
how
where
much
they were.
does the test cost? Y'all know?
Every state differs.
So
I
it
know.
can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, it can.
So
Some are 100, some are even more than that. Some are 80. I just helped an adjuster get his license for Florida yesterday. It was $60 just to renew.
Just to renew. So you've got to pay to get your license. You've got to pay to get trained to get your license, because it's not that easy to pass. You can't just go in there and just pass it. In my day, in Alabama, you just signed a piece of paper and said, I want to be an insurance adjuster, and then I was.
Yeah.
And then people would say, what
old
kind
school.
of qualifications do you have to have? And I'd be like, well,
You have to, as far as pay to as long as when you first start out, you should get your home state.
is that a requirement?
If it depends on where you live. If you don't have the state that you're in, that your home state, if it doesn't have
Okay.
a license, then you need to have a designated home state. You should appoint yourself and have a designated home state. But if you get your home state license, a lot of states reciprocate off of that license. They don't require you to take their own test. You can just, as long as you
Okay.
apply.
Yeah.
and get
But this
that
can get
license.
pretty expensive just for the licensing, and it's every year you have to renew your license.
Depends on the state. Some states are 12 months, some states are 24. I have the New York license, and that
Don't tell anybody.
yeah, that was fun to get that license.
Yep.
But
It's a tough test.
So how
It's
much do y'all
rewarding.
spend on licenses each year, probably?
Well, property in this case is different than flood because I'm a flood training and I only do flood claims.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only required to go and follow the FEMA guidelines to get my license for that. And then it's a federal control number for that. And I can work in any state. Now, if I want to work private flood claims, I have to have a state license to work those claims. So as a flood adjuster like myself, I get Alabama, which is my home state. Then I've got Florida, Texas, because they reciprocate. And then I just kind of hit the coast, the eastern shoreboard of where I can do private flood claims also. So South Carolina, North Carolina, and I can keep moving. And that's my goal, is to keep moving up the coast and just gathering those for flood claims.
Okay, so
starting back out, like you had mentioned those states, but as far as the cost goes, it depends on how many you have. Really, you have, like myself, 20 or more licenses. I mean, you get into the $1,000, $1,200, cost as far as renewing those.
per year,
Yeah, depending on when they renew,
do you make enough
Right.
money to cover that?
you better budget for it for sure.
You better budget for it.
That's part of your, your.
Well,
course,
Todd
your
mentioned
career
I
path,
could
but
just
you-
do flood claims, and then I wouldn't have to have a license.
Yeah, but the guidelines are a little more strict. I mean, you've got to meet the FEMA requirements. You got to go through their training package or theirs, 4 years, depending on what IA firm you're going to work for. You've got to go through their requirements too. So,
Okay, I just want to just start doing claims. I want to be like y'all did and just see a storm coming and see the dollar signs and get all excited, which is not, I say that kind of in a joking manner, because that's what everybody always thinks. You get into this, you make a lot of money, and then you never have to work again. But there's a lot more to it. There's an initial investment.
oh
You've
yeah,
got your licenses. You've got to be trained.
Yep.
You mentioned property, flood. You mentioned auto. We haven't even talked about auto. So what else is there? You talked about an estimating program. Do I have to pay for that as well?
Yeah, I think that's one of the concerns right now is technology is changing. The old school way was on pad and paper, going through there, measuring a house, doing it. Times have changed. Now it's a technological error. So now you've got your computer out there with the estimating software. You've got the iPad out there with the estimating software. You've got digital cameras, but the iPad and your digital camera can use it as one. You've got software that can be applied to all those devices, and you can use those out in the field. And then you got to find out which software the IA firm's using. CNC, we use Xactimate, and we use that whole suite. So it's very easy because all the programs are within that one package. And then it's just learning that. You got to be willing to adapt, though, because, again, times are changing. From last year to this year, times have changed. It's now easier to use that software, training, going through that stuff. But you got to be willing to invest the time and, again, the money to do the training correctly.
Time and money.
Yep.
So, again, I see a storm coming and I didn't invest any time or any money. I just see that a storm's coming and I hear everybody's going to make a lot of money. What do I do?
You can, if that's what you want to do, it depends on the storm and the state, and there's lots of variables that come into play. But just generally speaking, from new, you just jump in. You may have the opportunity to get an emergency license and just work that
Okay.
particular storm. But
Then
guess
how will
what?
I know what to do, though, if I didn't prepare?
Then you have to figure. You're going to be figuring
Just like
that
you
out as
guys.
you
So,
go.
so it's best to be prepared. So if I am considering a career in doing this, then I kind of need to have a little bit of a plan.
My
So
advice
to
is
look back, how y'all got into this, what would you give it? What kind of advice would you give to somebody, David, as far as,
I'd find
how to
somebody
really
who's
get
in the
started?
business and ask them what they like about it and what they don't like about it. And I would network. And
Mm-hmm.
there's, like you said, nowadays there's all type of groups and chats on social media that you can look at their comments, because not everyone's not going to fit into one mold. Everybody's different, right? But just because someone has a difference of opinion about something in particular may not mean that goes across the board for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I would network and then find out what works for folks, what they don't like we said, and just look into different firms, see where, get on their rosters, look and see what carriers they work for, look into the carriers and see what type of claims they work, and just, get as much information as you can as a whole. That way you can make a better informed decision on if that's for you or not, or if this is for you.
There's another aspect of the whole conversation too,
Mm-hmm.
is, you talk about going to the field and making lots of money.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to do that. You can stay right at home and work for that company as a desk adjuster or an inside help or inside support, something like that, where you might not be making the same amount of money as that adjuster out in the field that's away from home, traveling, has to live in a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have his home cooked food from his wife or significant other, whatever. Now you can live at your house. You work in that office as a desk adjuster. The qualifications might not all be there that you have to get a state license, but what it really does for you is it really gives you a sense, is this what I want to do with my life?
Kind of a stepping stone.
It gives you a good stepping stone. I mean, some of the best training I've ever had was working in the office for, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to be exact, learning how to write claims, learning what the carrier wanted, learning how to do it, learning what the company wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went out to the field, and guess what? Voila, I could start making a lot of money because I had made all those stepping stones first by just working in the office.
Interesting.
And
Sure.
that was my step one, Well, step one was thrown out to the field,
Right.
but then I came back and regrouped, and
Right.
I was able to get that office training. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the most valuable thing I've ever done. And I advise that to anybody. As a matter of fact, part one of this training conversation, when Derek and Will were in here, they came to the training classes. Guess
Mm-hmm.
where they started? In the office. They were working upstairs in the flood department, learning. And guess, as soon as Hurricane Eta hit, they were out to the field.
And ready to go.
And they knew how to handle it. Sure, they had to overcome some
Right.
steps, but because they worked in the office, because they came to the training, because they were technological savvy and everything, they knew what they needed, they were better prepared out in the field.
Right. They put the time in.
Yep.
Before it actually happened.
So that's the best way to get started. Get a license and then maybe find work inside.
That's one way.
I wouldn't say it's the best way. I think that's one option.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've experienced and heard from folks and talked to folks in the network that there's a mutual respect between the desk adjuster or the inside operation and the outside operation, because each one of them is its own animal. I mean, in the field, you have different things to do to keep up with, versus the inside. They come in and so, wow, you have to do all this and all these processes in place, and it's you're kind of out in the field. You're your own boss, really.
Okay,
You set your own schedule.
You're your own
Planning.
boss. Mm-hmm. So I would have to cover all of my expenses.
Yep.
I will not have any insurance.
Not if you're an independent.
An independent, meaning I'm working for myself.
Right. Right. You have to budget for that.